Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in to the Fantasy Roundup. I'm Spencer the Guru Urquhart here, piloting the show, and we've got our normal Bayou Bets pilot here with the Zach Ewing filling in for Gabe Henderson, who's a little under the weather. How you doing, Zach?
I'm good, Spencer. It's good to be back on the Fantasy Roundup.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
hip deep in fantasy baseball, so I'm like, you said, "Oh, pick a DFS basketball," and I thought, "Oh man, all I play is baseball and golf in the summertime," and so I had to go back and kind of look at it. But I think I actually have a play. I don't know if I'm going to call him a value, but he could be a good pivot for people who are looking to play DFS in the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. So we'll get to that.
Right. Yeah, definitely going to talk about that. And we'll have some golf later. Going to have Uncle Big Nick on. Not this episode, but maybe when the U.S. Open comes around, have a little DFS golf and then some DFS baseball as well. I see Kyle's in the house. A long time no see, man.
Yeah, it's been
And
a
of
while,
course,
Kyle.
Jerry. What up, Jerry? He's here every show. Yeah, but we'll get right into it here with our fantasy headlines. And started off, OTAs starting this week, so already got the typical overreactions in. But there were a few things of note. Aaron Rodgers, he's normally didn't want to do OTAs, but he's with a new team now, the Jets, and he already suffered an ankle or a calf injury. I think it ended up a calf injury.
No, but I mean, honestly, he's not hurt that. Like, that's not been an issue for him in his career. So,
Yeah.
do we? Obviously, he's getting older, but like that doesn't worry me a ton if I'm thinking about Aaron Rodgers stock. Like, we'll see what he looks like, especially not in OTAs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, way too early to panic there. Same thing with Allen Lazard. They both got dinged up, but nothing major there. Should be okay. The thing to note, though, several players didn't report to OTAs. I know they're voluntary, but it might be a little bit of a tell of players that aren't exactly happy with their current situation. Stephon Diggs, who was mad with Josh Allen last year in the playoffs, and Alvin Kamara, but that's probably due to his ongoing legal situation. But we did have some good news as far as Austin Eckler. There was rumors that he might not report and might not want to play for the Chargers this year because of a contract dispute. But they were able to settle that, and they gave him a little incentive, and he's going to play with the Chargers in 2023. He was the top fantasy running back last year, so good to see him back with the Bolts. LeBron James, uncertain on his playing future after the last night's exit, swept by the Nuggets. Not really a fantasy thing, but just wanted to throw it in because it will affect, if he would retire, that would definitely affect fantasy basketball because then the Lakers would have to totally regroup. And then we got a little baseball nugget here. Dodgers top starting pitching prospect Bobby Miller going to make his MLB debut tonight against the Atlanta Braves. Tough team to debut against, but he's supposedly the real deal, so we'll see how he does.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. Didn't he have like a 6 ERA in AAA? Which, listen, in the PCL, everybody's got a 6 ERA. But I gotta. If somebody gets him because I waited on him, fine. I gotta wait and see.
Yeah, I feel that. A lot of people rush to pick up pitching prospects, and the guy for your Mariners, Zach Bryce Miller, did really well to start off. Yeah, so it works out sometimes, but a lot of
that's
times it
actually a good
burns you.
point. That's a good point, Spencer, because he was in Double-A and his numbers weren't great this year. But the idea was, hey, listen, he's just out there working on different pitches and everything. They know he can dominate that level, and so it was a little bit different. By the way, speaking of LeBron, do we really think there's any chance LeBron's going to leave the NBA without some kind of a goodbye tour? Like, I'm a LeBron defender, but that guy is the type of guy who wants himself a goodbye tour.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, because especially with the way he handled the scoring thing, it's just like it was just all about him, like to where it's just I think he's gonna hang around and play with Bronny. Wherever Bronny gets drafted, he'll probably do that for 1 year, unless he'll do like Jordan and take a couple years off, maybe. But I wouldn't think he'll do that. I think was just disgusted after last night, being that he dropped 40 and they still got swept. So I think he'll eventually cool down and come back. And then the Lakers, they'll have one more chance probably because I think Bronny comes out the year after next. So then wherever Bronny goes, he'll go
next year. And then, I get the other thing is, if you're an NBA team, and I know we're getting off topic here, but if you're an NBA team And Bronny James has, let's just say he's average at USC next year. He got like a multi-million-dollar NIL deal. But let's just say he's, slightly above average. He's not a superstar. He's not the type of guy that you would normally, take in the top 10. But if he comes out into the draft, are you taking him if you're, well, hell, let's say you're the Pelicans and you own the number 7 pick. Are you taking him on the chance that if you take him, LeBron comes and plays his last year or two with you also? I mean, you have to think about it.
Yeah, I think it depends on where your team's at. If you feel like you're in a position to maybe strike a title window, which with a healthy Zion, then the Pels could be a possibility. But that's a whole mess there with Zion. Hopefully he can come back this year. And, speaking of current NBA, we've got our DFS values for tonight. And I know Zach's guy, and he's probably more upper scale, but not one of the two superstars, Tatum and Butler, the two superstars. You got Jaylen Brown, I see there at 10,000.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jaylen Brown has been awful in this series. And there's no other way to put it. I mean, he is, as much as anybody, the reason Boston is down 3-0. Tatum hadn't been good either, but Brown's really been bad. I mean, he hasn't shot the ball. He hasn't scored. I mean, he's just been awful. As good as he was against Philly and in the first round against Atlanta, he's been that bad. And he was the one who called their performance embarrassing after game 3. I'm not super confident that he has a great game tonight, but I think there exists a possibility in which if the Celtics, this is their Waterloo and they're going to have one last stand and they're going to bring this thing back to Boston and maybe make a run at, I mean, look, are they going to win the series? Almost certainly not. But 19 years ago, the Red Sox were the first MLB team to come back from 3-0 down. And that was in the, semifinals, the league championship series. And so there are some parallels there. Could Boston, and Boston, by the way, got embarrassed in game 3 of that series against the Yankees. So could they do it? I'm not saying they're going to, but if that is the narrative you buy into, and Jaylen Brown, I'm sorry, and the Celtics are going to play well, to me, Jaylen Brown is going to be at the center of that. And here's the thing. Nobody is going to pick that guy. Everybody, like you said, is going to take Jimmy Butler or Jason Tatum at the top of their lineup tonight. And so if that is true, if Jaylen Brown does go off tonight, you are going to be, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, because people that expensive, everybody's going to play some of, but if let's say Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler are both over 50% owned in DFS lineups and Jaylen Brown's only 20% owned and he's the one who goes off, you just got huge leverage. You don't even have to hit all 5 of your other guys. You just need to hit 2 or 3 of them and you have yourself a lineup that's going to cash. And if you put him in captain mode or something and he really goes off, even better. It's a risk, but that's how you win at DFS. You take risks and sometimes they lose and you look like an idiot, but who cares? If you take Jason Tatum and he has a great game, you're going to have to nail your other 5 picks anyway, which you're probably not going to do. So you might as well take a chance. That's why I like Brown tonight.
Right. Yeah, he'd be a little more expensive as the captain. The showdown captain mode, the only contest available with the Western Conference being over. So, and then Kyle saying about, I'd definitely take Brown on the Pelicans because I feel like the way he plays he'd fit in good over there. Just he's kind of similar to Brandon Ingram, so it might be too many mouths to feed with a healthy Zion and a healthy Ingram. But unfortunately, having those two healthy at the same time has been rare. But I wouldn't think the Celtics blow it up. But if they would get swept tonight, it could happen. They might want to break up Tatum and Brown. But speaking of some of their not their stars, but a guy that could do well tonight, I'm thinking Al Horford's in line for a big game. I know he's another one that sucked in this series. I mean, he has been terrible. He's a big guy that shoots threes. He has been bricking at 3 after 3. He's been just not good. But I feel like as an experienced player like him, he's not going to let this moment get to him. I think he's going to be a steady force tonight that'll get a lot of rebounds and make a few threes, keep him in it. And I'm thinking that he'll be a very good value there at 7,000 because they have the Williams guys, the Grant Williams, Robert Williams, but neither of them are shooters. They're both guys down low in the paint, getting boards and stuff, which Horford does some of that, but he's their big that can shoot. So to me, I like the Celtics tonight. I actually like them in daily best bets on the money line. So I'm thinking that I like the Brown pick as well. But as far as a guy that's not priced quite as high, I'm thinking Al Horford's in line for a good game.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think, again, when you're building these DFS lineups, you basically need everything to go just right, especially in just a one-game scenario. You basically need to just, as they call it in poker, like you got to have the nuts. You got to have exactly what's going to happen. You have to have all 6 guys right to win one of these big prizes. And so you have to take some chances because if the game goes exactly according to script, there's going to be 1,000 other people with that same lineup. So you got to differentiate somewhere and figure something out.
Yeah, which like for those that are looking to get into DFS, I'd recommend like one and done, like one lineup limit for the contest. Because these ones with single entry, because ones like I've done some where you can, and I look and the same guy wins because it's like he's got 100 good lineups, so he's got like half of them suck because he takes chances, but then the other half hit to where it's like half the spots get paid out to one guy. It's like, damn, man. I prefer single entry.
Whatever you do, if you're going to enter one of those MMEs, those mass multi-entries, don't go in there with one lineup against when it's a max entry of 150. You will lose. I don't care how good your picks are. Somebody else is going to have the same picks. You just, if you're going to go into those things, make sure you have the budget to go into them with a full slate of entries or something close to a full slate of entries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to start making that clear in my DFS column. Like, look, this is for single entry because I have like a recommended lineup. I hope people aren't reading that and being, oh, I'm gonna enter the millionaire maker, and then it's just it gets lost in the shuffle.
Everybody wants that million, but man, you got to be realistic.
Oh yeah, you got to study that. Like we'll have to have Uncle Big Nick on in a few weeks to break down the U.S. Open because I know they have those kind of big mass tournaments like that. But he does all that. He's got it all charted out on a spreadsheet. I remember we had him on last year to break down one of the majors. And yeah, it's like, but these big DFS tournaments, it's more than just, oh, I'm going to just set one lineup. If you want to win the million, you've got to have all the possible scenarios played out and just submit all kind of different lineups and just hope one of them hits.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's our DFS segment here on the Fantasy Roundup. For those just tuning in, appreciate y'all. We're live every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. And our next topic of the day is early fantasy football rankings, because we know how y'all are. Everyone wants football year round, and so we're gonna give y'all what y'all want. Football talk. Here we go. Top 12 per position. We're gonna start off with the quarterback position. Got my early top 12 here, and I feel like I'll break it down by tiers. I feel like the first tiers, it was top 4 there: Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Hurts. If you're gonna take a QB early in a single quarterback league, it's gotta be one of these 4. If you don't get one of those 4, you might as well wait a little bit. The second tier, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, can be solid if you can get them at a value. A lot of times they get overdrafted because the people that miss out on the big 4 panic and then take those guys early. I actually did my first mock draft Monday last night, and sure enough, Fields, Herbert, and Lamar all got reached on Lawrence, the only one that was somewhat of a value. And then after them, another tier break. We got Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, and Daniel Jones. Kind of tough to rank those. Gave a slight edge. I've given a slight edge to the pocket passers. I might switch it up as we go along, but I just feel like with the mobile QBs, they're just more injury prone to where if I'm in a single QB and not wanting to have to play quarterback roulette, I'd probably give a slight edge to Lawrence over Fields, slight edge to Herbert over Lamar. Because if you can take Fields and Lamar and they'll do really well. It's just you got to probably spend a little higher pick on a backup QB because they're probably going to miss at least 2 or 3 games with their style, which is run with reckless abandonment a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think, again, it's sort of a risk-reward thing. Playing season long is so much different. Like, you do want a guy who's going to stay healthy. It's hard to beat the ceiling of one of those mobile guys.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you get one of those and you get kind of a high upside pocket passer guy, like let's say a Bryce Young. I mean, we're as a backup in season long, or maybe you just keep your tabs on the waiver wire. I mean, if your guy does get hurt, realize you're probably going to need to spend a pick 1 week on him.
Right, yeah, and then he could take like a safe backup, like a Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff, like a guy. Goff, I think now is probably going to be a top 12 in a lot of leagues with the way the Lions are trending. But there's somebody out there that you could get there. Derek Carr, I feel like Derek Carr would be a like a safe pocket passer QB2. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers, if he would fall, but there's so much buzz around him with the Jets, he'll probably get overdrafted in most leagues. But there's definitely options to where I might switch him because he had the upside of they have more upside. It's just so if I'm going to try to stack my bench with running backs and receivers, I'd rather not have to worry about a second quarterback. But speaking of running backs, let's go over the top 12 here of the running back position, which is always tough to predict because of injuries, but got our top 12 here. CMC and Eckler top it off. Bijan Robinson, the rookie, I think is going to do amazing. Atlanta's a run first team, and I think he's a top 5 back right away, even in redraft leagues, which is what we're talking about here. And his PPR, most people play PPR.
He's going to catch some passes, boy. Yeah.
100%. That's why I have him over Jonathan Taylor, who I think is going to bounce back to the top 5, but he's with the way the Colts offense is shaping up, probably won't be a whole lot of check down. There's going to be Anthony Richardson, who's a mobile QB, and it's going to be like the ground and pound, kind of like the Eagles. It was the former Eagles OCs, now the Colts head coach, and they did not throw to their running backs much. So Jonathan Taylor's PPR upside slightly limited. Then we've got Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Can't go wrong with any of them. Travis Etienne on the rise. I think could finish higher than this. He's in a really good offense, but he was injured his rookie year. And then last year didn't do quite as well as we were hoping, but still had a solid year and has room for growth. And Nick Chubb and Najee Harris, both solid options. Chubb might move up this list if Kareem Hunt signs elsewhere. Still a chance Hunt returns to Cleveland, but as of now, it's Chubb's backfield, so he might move up a few spots. And Ramondre Stevenson and Breece Hall. Ramondre was a PPR monster last year, and then Breece Hall coming off a torn ACL. Most lists have Tony Pollard in the top 12. I'm going to get to that in my rant, but I'm just not really buying Pollard to where I still think even coming off the ACL, Breece Hall could finish top 12 because, man, when he was healthy last year, he was a beast. And now you've got Aaron Rodgers, so he'll have a lot more goal line opportunities probably.
Yeah, no, I like that list. And I mean, I think with the way most fantasy leagues are anymore, and a lot of them are PPR, know the rules of your league. If it's half point, if it's full point or whatever, that dramatically changes this position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Kyle likes Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, I've seen some lists with Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 12. I don't think he'll be offensive rookie of the year and do all that because they've got David Montgomery there. I don't think David Montgomery is just going to be pushed aside because we had that narrative with DeAndre Swift. Everyone just thought it'd be DeAndre Swift's backfield. But guess what? Jamal Williams was very much a thorn in his side, and last year ended up the better back of the two. I think Gibbs will be better for fantasy than Montgomery, but it's not a guarantee with the way the Lions like to do it. That's a 2-back system over there. It's not going to be just Gibbs. Or I think with Atlanta, Bijan's got a shot to where he'll get all the work.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Atlanta's got some other backs in there, and Tyler Algier probably most specifically, but I think Bijan is so good, and you don't spend the number 8 pick on a running back if you're not going to give him a ton of snaps.
Yeah, and Zach Kuntz, Kyle's the tight end he really likes. He was a 7th-round pick of the Jets. So I mean, if Aaron Rodgers takes a liking to him, he might be a deep sleeper. But he just gets 7th-round pick. I mean, he might not even make the roster. It's like the Kayshon Boutte thing. Like, I mean, Gabe talked about that last week. I mean, yeah, Kayshon's got upside, but I mean, he's only a 6th-round pick. So I mean, you gotta fight just to even make the team. So it's hard to like someone in fantasy that has no sort of guarantee.
Yeah, that's true.
But before we move on to receivers, Zach, I'd like to get your thoughts on Stevenson because last night he slipped to the 3rd round. I got him in the mock, but then to me that was like a steal because with the amount of receptions he was getting, like I think he's top 12 for sure. But I know some people are nervous that it's Belichick and that you can't really trust their backs. But
it's hard, man. I'm kind of in that camp. Like, I don't think I've drafted a Patriots wide receiver in years. But he certainly was a league winner for people last year. You know, I think you can make an argument for him top 12. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'm kind of a hero RB guy anyway, and so if I can't get one of my very top guys, I'm going to wait.
Yeah,
and try to pick up guys who pop up throughout the year. But I do think you can make that argument.
Yeah, I did hero RB in a mock. It wasn't one of like an official mock. I say they're almost mocks. I did a mock like a way too early one a couple weeks ago where I did zero RB. I did zero RB where I had Cam Akers and Miles Sanders as my top 2 backs and had AJ Brown and Travis Kelce as my first 2 picks. I picked 11th, I believe. So I was like, I'll take that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's it's amazing how leagues look at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year when you go, oh yeah, that guy was a terrible pick, and I should have picked this guy who went undrafted, and he ended up being a league winner. Like you just don't know, and sometimes you're better off taking the positions like running back. I mean, I'm sorry, like anybody but running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, a quarterback, who who's a more sure thing than try to hash out who's going to win these jobs at running back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you can get a horse
and who's going to stay healthy too. I mean, that's the other
thing. Yeah, I mean, even if you get a horse like a Derrick Henry, I mean, he had a year where he's doing great, but he missed half the games because running back's just such a brutal position. So if you're
and Derrick Henry too, I've been fading that guy in drafts for years, just thinking at some point, and I still believe it. I mean, look, he at some point he will be too old for the league. I mean, it happens to everyone. It has unanimously happened to everyone in the history of the NFL and professional sports. It will happen to him too. It's just a matter of when.
Right. Yeah, we got your predictions, Kyle. We got them. Yeah. So
he's got them on the record.
Exactly. So if we're gonna run these back, if Zach Kuntz doesn't pan out, we're gonna run this back a year or 2 later, and
you're on the hook.
Yeah, but I mean, he landed in a good situation. I mean, if you end up a 7th round pick, you never know. But yeah, it's just going back to Derrick Henry real quick. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like with the beast mode Marshawn Lynch, where it was like a guy you thought, well, he's such a physical runner, he's not gonna last, but he ended up having like a really nice career. So, but Henry though, even with that, he's done it for so long now. This might be the end of the road, but I'd still take him at the end of the 1st, early 2nd round.
No, I'm with you.
Yes. I mean, we don't have anything on it. We're definitely not going to welch out. We have nothing on the line. You're the one that made these predictions. So if you're right,
we are going to be here. All right, we are going to be here.
So yeah, you just got to cheer on Zach Kuntz. Go give him a pep talk. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs. But let's move on to receivers. Justin Jefferson.
Wait.
What else?
Is he calling Derry Fat Boy? Who are we calling Fat Boy?
Yeah, because he's still mad about the po' boy bet.
But Jim's, I mean, we're going to personal insults. The next time Jim's in Lafayette, he'll hit you up. Come on, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't want to call him Fat Boy, and he's definitely not going to get you a po' boy. If you bully him, then he definitely won't get it. I mean, he never said he wouldn't get it.
Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, Kyle. Don't be like that. Don't be mean now. You're gonna, you already. I mean, because Jim's on the North Shore, so he's not in Lafayette much, but I'm sure when he is, he'll get it for you. Or Baton Rouge. Kyle says something in Baton Rouge.
Well, we're talking about maybe Jim going out to cover the Saints and Texans in Houston. So if that happens, listen, I'm making it a condition of the trip. I control the budget. All right, Jim, you can drive to Houston and cover the Saints and Texans, but Old Time Grocery going to be your lunch stop, and Kyle Brister's going to be there with you. We might even make you guys live stream it. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who Steven is, but oh well. All right, let's get the receivers done. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, the LSU boys top the list, and we've got CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. Diggs, I noticed. Diggs is a guy that a lot of people are fading because he's kind of has had the tension with Josh Allen, and he's like 30 years old now, I believe. But to me, they're going to figure it out. It's an elite offense, and he's the volume guy. They didn't really do much to address the receiver. And they drafted Dalton Kincaid, but he's a tight end where I think Diggs will still be a top 5 receiver. And then we got A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp. Not as high on Cooper Kupp as the consensus. Most people are thinking Kupp's just going to come back and be his old self, but he's another one that's getting up in age, and I'm just concerned that the Rams are broken. I mean, Matthew Stafford's old, Kupp's coming off yet another injury, a second major injury of his career, to where I'm just not as high on him. Then we got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Garrett Wilson, 2 really intriguing young receivers that I think have top 5 potential. And Devontae Adams, another one I'm not as high on, just don't like the situation there in Vegas. And Jalen Waddle, another Dolphin receiver who's in a good spot. And then Chris Olave, I'm feeling Chris Olave as a WR1 this year. I think it could happen with Derek Carr. Wow. I mean, Andy Dalton, he's solid with Andy Dalton. I feel like with Derek Carr, he's got potential for more.
You know why I like that, and I don't think I'm as confident as you are, but if you look at what Derek Carr did, and I know this name has been kind of lost to other things, to off-field things, but if you look at what he was doing with Henry Ruggs before Henry Ruggs, unfortunately had the drunken driving accident, left the league, ruined his life, all of the above. That guy was a blazer, kind of like Olave, and Derek Carr would throw some bombs to that guy. So especially if you're in a league where you get big yardage bonuses or long touchdown bonuses or something like that, like Chris Olave is going to score some long touchdowns this year. So is Rashid Shaheed, by the way. Like
I really like Rashid Shaheed as a deep sleeper. I got him in the last round of the mock last night.
Derek Carr kind of has this reputation. Oh, he's a dump off guy. I mean,
Not
I understand
really.
where that comes from because he does do it from time to time. Like he will not take chances early in games, but if it's there, he's going to throw deep, and he has got some serious arm strength.
Yeah, he's still got an arm. He's not that old. Derek Carr is only like, how old are you? Covered him, Zach?
30, yeah, I think he'll be 32 by the time the season starts.
32. Okay, yeah. I mean,
he just turned 32 because his birthday is 3/28, isn't it? That was the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, the 28 to 3. Yeah, of course he's gonna be the Saints quarterback. His birthday's 3/28. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just fit like a glove. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then Garrett Wilson, like I like him. I've seen some lists have him top 5. To me, that's too high though, because like Aaron Rodgers, he'll definitely be his main target. But Rodgers brought in his buddies though, like Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb. He's gonna feel obligated to throw to them some. They still got Corey Davis. So I really like Wilson, but I feel like his upside might be a little bit capped because of all the mouths to feed over there.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough situation to see how that figures out. And I mean, like Robert Salah, too, pretty conservative game planner. Now, was that just because he had, these guys at quarterback who you can't trust, and he was doing it out of necessity, or is that just who he is? I mean, are we going to see them throw if they get up 2 touchdowns in the game? Are they going to keep throwing, or is Rodgers going to get, only 20 attempts in those games? I mean, that's something we're going to have to wait and find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett. It'll be a new system with Nathaniel Hackett because last couple years with Salah, he had brought over Mike LaFleur, who was from the Shanahan coaching tree. So they tried to run a similar offense to the 49ers, a more conservative run the ball thing. Where with Hackett, like Hackett's offense in Green Bay was fairly conservative, but I don't think he was the main play caller because the other LaFleur, their head coach, Matt LaFleur, was, I believe, the play caller. So Hackett, I know last year he was an absolute disaster with Denver, but now that he'll have Rodgers and a lot of other good weapons, it should be a lot more fruitful this year. But still don't think it'll be like a super high volume passing attack because Rodgers the past few years has been more of an efficiency guy as opposed to a volume guy. And so, yeah, let's move on to I skipped tight ends. I'll be real with y'all. Tight end is uglier than ever this year. We'd have been talking about guys that are just, the 8 through 12, it's just disgusting. So, but to show Travis Kelce some love, decided to do a top 12 overall because as good as Travis Kelce is, we definitely had to mention him. And he makes the overall top 12, which I got Justin Jefferson at the 101. If I have that first pick, I'm taking the safe pick there at Justin Jefferson because Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, they're amazing for PPR, but they're probably going to miss 2 or 3 games. Justin Jefferson's going to play all the games barring everyone could get hurt potentially, but I feel like Jefferson's chances are a lot less. Same with Jamar Chase, although Chase got hurt last year. So it just goes to show it can happen to anybody, but I would still take those guys top 4. And then Bijan Robinson got up there. And then Kelce had gotten in the middle there, him and Jonathan Taylor, 6 and 7. Feel like Kelce is well worth a first-round pick, gives you that big positional advantage at tight end. It was kind of tough, though, after that. Had C.D. Lamb up at 8, a little higher on him than the consensus. Most lists have Cooper Kupp up here and Derrick Henry, but I'm trying to think ahead. I feel like and Tyreek Hill and Diggs, they're getting a little older too, but they didn't really show much sign of decline. I feel like, though, Henry had the year he was injured, and then Kupp missed a bunch last year. And their teams are so bad. The Titans are a dump. The Rams are a dump. Their offensive lines are bad. So I like guys that are on good offenses. All these players here are in, pretty good situations. I know the Colts and the Falcons, they're kind of up and coming, but I feel like their situations are better than Tennessee, a team that's just got like no identity right now. Yeah, they've got Derrick Henry, but it's like what are they? I mean, they drafted Will Levis. It's just nasty there. And then the Rams just reeling after that Super Bowl win, which they were successful at getting that done, but now they're having to pay to Piper heavily. And outside of Stafford and Kupp, they have nothing on offense. Where teams are just, I feel like, gonna just blanket Cooper Kupp. But what are your thoughts? Do you think I'm crazy with not having Kupp in there? Or?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I mean, I will say this about injuries. You just can't. Like Michael Thomas never got hurt. Yeah, Michael Thomas never got hurt until he did, right? And now he never plays. Cooper Kupp never got hurt before last year. Do we know if he's going to come back and be the same guy? I mean, do we know Justin Jefferson's not going to hurt? No, we don't know any of that. And so it's just really tough to say, well, I'm not going to do this because of injury, but I don't know. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I would be ecstatic if I could get Cooper Kupp in the second round. Like if he wasn't, if everybody else thought that too, but I don't know that I would reach for him either. So I guess I'm kind of halfway in between. I know I'm copping out on that answer, but it's tough, man. The one thing I'll definitely agree with you is you mentioned how much of a mess tight end is. Travis Kelce's absolutely a first round pick. That guy he's a league winner because he's the most consistent guy at a position where other people are really going to be struggling. Let me throw a name out there while we're talking about tight ends. Kyle Pitts, who had a fairly promising rookie year and then was just a big nothing burger last year.
Post-type sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, is he a sleeper now, or what are we doing with him?
I think so. I mean, he's still a big enough name though, where he went in the mock class, and I believe he went in the 8th round. But to me, that was value. If I can get him that late, I'll take it because you're not having to pay. Last year, he was going in like the 4th, and I was like, that's just too high. Sometimes even the 3rd. I was like, y'all are just going too crazy over him. I stayed away from him last year. Glad I did. Avoided that nothing burger, as he mentioned, but for this year, I think he could be a pretty good post-hype candidate. We'll definitely have to do a show on that post-hype sleepers. I noticed a lot of guys like A.J. Dillon went really late. He's a guy that people were overdrafting last year. Gabe Davis, Bills' second receiver, everyone was thinking he'd take that leap and didn't. So then this year, everyone's like, oh, he sucks. I'm not drafting him. But if you get these guys late enough, there's always value to be had for even if players are like, oh, I hate that player, I'll never draft him. I mean, if Michael Thomas is as much as us fantasy players hate Michael Thomas because of his injuries, if Michael Thomas falls at the 10th round, I'll take a shot because it's like if he does manage to stay healthy, he's a top, at least a WR2. So it's just all about value where you can get these guys.
No, I mean, I'm with you. I think it's so hard to say, hey, do you like this guy or not? Well, what you're really asking me is, do I like him more than the consensus? Because I might be the lowest man in my draft on Kyle Pitts, but that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily low on him. But if everybody else thinks he's a 4th rounder and I think he's a 6th rounder, well, I still like him better than I like more than half the guys in the draft pool. I'm just not going to reach for him. So yeah, you're 100% right.
Yep. Yeah, it's all the ADP stuff, and sometimes that's why I like doing mocks. Like, I mean, every now and then I'll do just like the auto-generated mock, where it's me against like 11 auto-pick teams. But I feel like with that, things don't flow right. It's kind of like when you write an article in Chat GTP. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's like it's cool, but then you got to go in and clean it up because there's certain things that just don't flow. Like when I say Sean Payton still the Saints head coach. Well, I have to take that out there. It's like when you draft with these bots.
Doesn't quite add up.
Yeah, they'll do these weird things where they'll have like 10 receivers all get picked in a row. It's like, well, what the hell? It's like in a real draft, I could probably get away with this. Where sometimes with those auto drafts, you just get like these weird trends that just make zero sense. So that's why I like doing the drafts with with people, because then you get to see like what's the consensus thing and what are the actual humans thinking here. How are these trends developing? Where are the runs typically happening, and what players are kind of falling through the cracks? But yeah, we'll have plenty more of that in the next 2 or 3 months because it's going to be lit. We got a lot of time to prepare, getting an early start. And so that being said, though, let's talk some baseball because I know my dad and the baseball crew are probably getting mad at us. Oh, y'all just ignore baseball. No, we're not. We got it. We got it.
Love me some fantasy baseball.
Yeah, I do too. It's I don't know. You'll get to that on your rant, Zach. It can be a tough beast to contain, especially when you're in a league. One of mine is unlimited pickups, and you just get to where you just want to be making pickups every
can't
day.
Be doing that. Yeah, you can't be doing that. That's because to me,
gotta be very disciplined.
If you're unlimited pickups, and I don't want to get into this for my rant or whatever, but if you're unlimited pickups, you are basically saying that whoever pays the closest attention is going to win the league. And I mean, that should be part of it. Don't get me wrong. Like, we want that to be part of a league. You want people who pay attention to be rewarded for that. But when you make that the entire focal point of everything, like, I got issue with that.
Yeah. Luckily, our league's pretty chill. They don't have anybody that abuses it. But yeah, if they did have someone that was like a fiend that was just checking it constantly and picking up a new pitcher every day, then it would get bad. But luckily, the league's like everyone's grown and has jobs and stuff. So it's like I feel like it's pretty good.
we got real world responsibilities. Dang it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, shoot, I get paid to talk fantasy, so I probably pay as just much. I lead the league in pickups. I don't make a pickup every day, but I still lead the league because it's just like I'll see something and it's like, well, I gotta pick that guy up. He's too good to be sitting there. And speaking of guys that are too good to be sitting there, how is Esteury Ruiz still available in over half of leagues? I find this to be insane, especially for those in Roto, because this dude leads MLB in stolen bases. 24 stolen bases. Next up, I believe, is I forgot who. Someone I think they have like 18. But I mean, bottom line is this guy is a stolen base machine. And I know he plays for the A's, so his runs, RBIs, all that's a little capped. Then he's basically a zero in power. But I mean, he hits for a decent average, and he'll carry you in stolen bases. If you have this guy, you don't even have to worry about any of your other guys stealing bases. You can just load up on power hitters and have this guy as your stolen base guy. Props to my dad for taking him in our league, we have in another league, which is where you can't make any pickups except for you only get 4. You get 2 at the end of May and 2 at the end of July. But my dad drafted this guy, and he's been a stud. And to me, people that can make pickups, go get him. Stop letting this guy chill on the waiver wire and steal all these bases. And I guarantee you could use a guy like that because even with the new rules, not many players are stealing a lot of bases. And yeah, 35th round. Yeah, that was insane. Because yeah, that league's. I mean, I need to join a more normal fantasy baseball league. I mean, one with unlimited pickups and another with 40 rounds and only 4 pickups.
Wow. Yeah. I may have a spot for you next year. I'll take care of you.
Cool.
Look, we I didn't even realize Esteury Ruiz was available in that many leagues. In what is that? 63.4% of league. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's why I had to put him
drafted, and so listen. The A's are historically bad, and if you listen to Bayou Bets, you know how I feel about that situation. But that guy's fun to watch. Okay, I'm a Mariners fan. They play the A's a whole bunch, and they beat him a whole bunch. But that guy worries you because he gets on base, and when he gets on base, it's a double, and sometimes it's a triple, and so they're going to score some runs. He's not the world's greatest hitter, but you got to find a spot for him if he's available. For my waiver wire pickup, I went James Paxton. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could go with this, but I think a lot of people just kind of forgot that he's back.
And yeah, I did. Big Maple's back
for the Red Sox. And speaking of the Mariners, I mean, the guy had a couple of really good years with the Mariners, and now he's been kind of floating around. He's been battling injuries. There's always a concern he's going to get hurt again. But his first 2 starts, he's got more than a K per inning. He's not going real deep into games yet, but his ERA, his WHIP are both good. Look, starting pitching, at least in the leagues I'm in, is the most valuable commodity. If you can find a guy that's why Bryce Miller, you mentioned, was so valuable. If you can find a guy who can step in, and he doesn't have to be elite. He doesn't have to go 7 innings, 12 Ks. He doesn't have to be Shohei Ohtani or Corbin Burns every time out. But if he's going to give you 5-6 innings, 1 or 2 runs, and 5 or 6 Ks every time out, you need that guy in your lineup. I mean, even if he throws in a stinker every now and then, everybody's looking for that guy. And James Paxton's only owned in 16% of leagues, so he's out there for a lot of it.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, before all the injuries, I mean, he was really good. I mean, I know you know him, Zach. He was with your Mariners. I mean, he had a run there. He was looking nice. I remember I had him back when I was in a keeper league, and I was like, man, I think this guy's going to be a stud for years to come. But unfortunately, the injuries piled up. So yeah, I think he's worth a shot. Red Sox, so it's just a team that it seems like that's where pitchers go to die lately. I mean, even Chris Sale's been a little bit off this year, but it's like it's worth a shot because when he's right, Paxton is a K machine. Like if he can just only give up 2 or 3 runs most starts and get 7, 8 strikeouts, that's very, very good for fantasy because it's hard to find consistent arms out there that you pick up an arm thinking they're going to be good the rest of the way, and then they'll have 2 or 3 good outings, and their next outing they'll get bombed and give up 8 runs against a team like a team that's not even good sometimes, where it's just hard to know. But yeah, it's definitely worth taking a chance on pitchers with upside because you just gotta assemble a decent enough staff to stay afloat because there's just if you don't keep up and get these kind of arms, you're gonna fall out. And if you just keep sticking with arms that are just suck, you got to make some moves. And yeah, Paxton's one that could be an upgrade.
I don't even know if it's upside as much as just he's gonna be consistent. Maybe the upside's there, and if the upside's there, that's fantastic. But really, if he just stays healthy, and like I said, he runs a 3.5 ERA and a 1.2 WHIP with a K an inning for the rest of the year, with a win mixed in every 3 starts or so. Everybody needs that in their lineup. Who doesn't?
Yeah, unless you're in a league that's like real shallow or something. Yeah, most competitive leagues, yeah, you need guys like those steady kind of arms like that. So yeah, definitely go check that out for those that need help in y'all's fantasy baseball league. Get those pickups in. But it's time for Zach's rant here, which is about gotta have patience.
Yeah, and look, one reason I chose this topic is because it's difficult for me too. I'm in 3 fantasy baseball leagues. Three main ones. I'm in another one just kind of for fun because a buddy needed somebody to fill in, and it's not for money or anything. But the 3 main ones that I'm in where I have something at risk, where I really care about it, right? Like I am invested in the outcomes, and I had a slow start. Yeah, I've been pretty solid in one of them all year long, but the other 2, I real slow start, and in one of them I think I get 40 moves for the year, and the other one I get 100. And so they're kind of different levels of how involved you can be early in the season. The 40 move one, you're almost forced to be hands off, where, okay, do I really want to pick a move? But more than how many moves you have, to me, the key to being a good fantasy baseball manager is having patience and trusting what you did in the draft. Because if you like the team you drafted, there is no reason why you should not like that team on April 30th or even on May. What is today? May 23rd.
Yeah.
You need to realize that if those guys were good, like Julio Rodriguez, right? If you thought he was a first round pick on March 25th, then on May 25th, he ought to still be a first round pick, assuming he's not injured. He's not injured. He's still producing. He's still in the lineup every day. He's not really producing, but you got to have, now that doesn't mean you can't go explore trades, but you don't want to go trade off all your best players at a low point either. And basically what's happened to me in these 2 leagues is I've been rewarded for my patience. I've had a couple of big weeks, and now I'm right back in playoff position in both of them. And it's happened to me before where you see other owners in the league start to panic and say, oh my God, Julio Rodriguez is never going to hit. I'm going to drop him. I'm picking that guy up every freaking time. Or maybe that's an extreme example. They're not dropping him, but they're trading him at a low.
Yeah,
point.
get him for the low. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll go buy him low and see what happens. And so find that impatient manager in your league, especially in a head-to-head scenario where you can make up ground fast in a head-to-head league. And the other thing I was going to say, Spencer, is like in a head-to-head league, it takes some legwork, but if you're on ESPN or Yahoo or most of the popular platforms, you can go in and see the season-long stats, see how many home runs your team has hit versus all the other teams in the league, see how many stolen bases you have, see your ERA, see your wins, your saves, all of that. Figure out what the roto standings should be, because sometimes the head-to-head can be so volatile that you can lose 8-2 and 8-1 in back-to-back weeks. Oh, my team is terrible. I need to do something. I have to pick somebody up. I have to make a trade. I have to, and you panic. Go do the roto standings and see if that's actually true, because you might find out that you go, oh, it's been 4 weeks and I actually have the 4th best team in the league so far. So even though my record is 16 and 26 or whatever, and I'm in last place, like I should be doing better. My guys are performing. Give it a minute. Take the time to figure out what those roto standings should be. Give yourself a more true sense of what your team is, and trust that you're going to get that positive regression to the mean throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's funny. One of mine is a head-to-head. I've gotten really lucky though, because like I'm like a mid-pack team in the roto, but I'm near the leaders in the record. So like I might need to look into making some trades.
I mean, I think that 100% it works that way. You go through it the other way and say, okay, if I'm half to a great start, is this legit, or do I need to go make a move, or else I'm going to fall back to the pack, or I'm not going to be able to feel very good about the way the playoffs are going. I mean, so yeah, 100%. You should. That's something I like to do anyway, just to see. It's a long season. See where you're actually at, and go from there.
For sure, for sure. Yep. And so I got my rant here about this Tony Pollard stuff. I kind of mentioned it in the running back rankings, but I just see this, you see early trends develop with fantasy football, and I can just tell Tony Pollard is going to end up a player that ends up overdrafted in basically every league, because on these experts consensus lists, he's being treated like he's an elite running back one. I've seen him as high as 7th on these freaking quote unquote experts lists. So I'm sick of it already. It's only May and I'm already tired of this. Stop treating Tony Pollard like an elite fantasy player, because to me he's just not built to be a workhorse. Zeke was still there last year. I know Zeke's gone now. That's why they're all moving him up. But he worked in tandem with Zeke. I don't see how he's going to be able to just carry the load all by himself, because they brought in other backs. They brought in Ronald Jones. They drafted Deuce Vaughn. They still have Malik Davis. They've got other backs there that are going to take work from him, and most specifically goal line work, which is what Zeke was such a pest at last year, to where Pollard's upside was capped. And it won't be as cut and dry. It won't be all Zeke, but I think between the ones I mentioned, Jones, Davis, and Vaughn, they're going to all chip in and steal work. So I just don't trust Tony Pollard to be a running back one. I'd love him as a running back two, because without Zeke, he'll definitely see an increase in production. But if he's getting drafted in the second round, some leagues, even the first round, there's no way I'm touching that. It's insane to me. And I think a lot of it has to do with he's a Dallas Cowboy, and people with the Cowboys, it's like, oh man, it's like you got like with Zeke. Zeke was truly elite, and he was built for that in his prime. Tony Pollard, though, I don't see it.
Yeah, mixed feelings on him. I certainly don't think I would spend a real high pick on the guy. It's tough, because I think I'm in the camp that thinks he's always been more talented than Zeke. But you're right. We have not seen what he is capable of doing as a workhorse back. We don't know if he's capable of doing that. And so even though he may be more explosive, that is a bit of an issue for sure.
Yeah, it's durability. I mean, he got hurt down the stretch last year. He's rehabbing a leg injury. So it's just like having to carry more of a workload. He's might end up missing games. He's on the franchise tag, but it's just hard for me to feel confident in that. And again, it goes back to value. If I could get him at a value in the 3rd or 4th round, I'll take it. But when I see players like this that are going way up high, that haven't proven it and have shown signs of shown flaws, which is to me his flaw is not being a workhorse. I'm not touching him, because a lot of the Twitter community, they're just like, oh, you just hate so-and-so. It's like, well, I don't hate so-and-so. If I get him at a good price, I'll take him. I hate him, though, right, if he's going in the 1st or 2nd round. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Maybe they'll have some voices of reason push back to where Pollard ends up reasonable. But as of now, I know how this goes. I see it every year. Players like Pollard, and I hate to say it because I really like this guy, but Garrett Wilson, Pollard and Garrett Wilson are going to get overdrafted in basically every fantasy league come July and August, because the hype is already going through the roof. And I might get suckered into Wilson in a few because he's one of my guys, but Pollard, y'all can have him.
It's two things. I mean, number one, you got to stick to the guys that you like. Okay, so if you really like a guy, then yes, you should not be afraid to reach for him a little bit and get a couple shares of him here and there. But I agree with you. I mean, like it just comes down to value, like we're talking about. You got to have you got to have the ability to put your foot down and say, no, that's too high for that guy. I'm not spending that.
For sure, for sure. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today's fantasy roundup. It was a fun show. And any final thoughts, Zach, before we sign off?
No, I mean, I think. Listen, it's always time to be thinking about it. But had an interesting week in fantasy golf for the PGA Championship last week. I kind of came pretty close to hitting some stuff. But unfortunately did not have enough Brooks Koepka. I was trying to play the ownership game, thought he would be over-owned, and was wrong about that. So, it cost you. And that's the thing about DFS, is we want to end the discussion where we started it with the NBA. You gotta be willing to take risks, and you have to realize that sometimes those things are just not going to work out. That's why they're risks, and that's why we play the game.
100%. So we'll be back 2 weeks from now on Fantasy Roundup, because next week we're gonna have no Bayou Bets on Monday because of Memorial Day, but we'll have Bayou Bets on Tuesday and Thursday with myself and Jim Derry. Zach will be on vacation, so we'll still have our usual programming for y'all, and it's gonna be cool. It's kind of the dead zone right now, but we still got LSU baseball. We still got MLB, still got golf. We still got stuff to talk about. The NBA finals will be tipping off, so we'll have a lot to discuss. And before we sign off, though, just a reminder: subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're almost to 100 subs, y'all. Let's keep pushing that boulder uphill. Appreciate everyone that's been supporting us on the Bayou Bets channel and with all our fantasy roundup Bayou Bets shows. It's been fun. We're gonna keep it going, but this one's done, so we'll put a bow on it. For Zach Ewing and Spencer the Guru Urquhart, this has been Fantasy Roundup. See y'all later.